with 6 lamb burgers, 4 shish kebabs, a side order of couscous, and 2 milk. No, how much?
$6.75.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is...
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. This is we're coming to you in the middle of the day. Well, for me, it is. It's 12:30 Pacific. This is Tyler Yonke, LPR, Dead Man's Party. I'm going to continue to play that theme when it comes to a certain subject. You know him, you love him. The Nick Rekieta saga coming at you. And by the way, I don't know if Sean's still in here, but he jumped in to say one thing. He said, "Damn, you beat me to the punch." I'm assuming on this stuff. Feel free. And by the way, if I did reach out to you on Twitter, so I wanted you to come on at some point, not necessarily about this, but if I'm doing this on OBS, okay? And if I was doing it straight to StreamYard, I would just send you a link and you come on, we can talk about it. But I just thought I'd get this out there real quick, kind of on Monday. I get snaked on all these issues all the time by everybody because I just do them on Fridays. So since I'm doing it on Friday, and I hope all the levels, everything's good out there. Since I do it on Friday, stuff comes out earlier in the week, and then everyone has already done something about it. But what are we talking about? There's one thing. I was curious, and I had talked about this, and I've said it over and over with Barnes and Frei, Viva Frei or Free or whatever it is, that they are going to now come out and say something completely different about, because the ruling. So what is it? It's, hey, look, there's all these constitutional issues. You're going to throw them up there. It's easy. Nick is obviously going to win. That's what Nick was saying. He's going to win all these. And then when it doesn't come true, because we live in the real world, they're going to blame the judge. Or in this case, it kind of blew me away. It was what Robert decided to have. His explanation was this, and that's why I named this. Real lawyer changes his tune about this. This is because he went a different route, which is he decided to really not even talk about it, but he talks about it. And then he gaslights everybody into why they were wrong in the first place. Basically, he's taken my tune, kind of, in a way, which is what everyone has been saying all along. But then what he says is like, these mother effers, they've been doing this wrong the whole time. They've been completely wrong this whole time. And it blows me away. So but what I thought I would do first, because I thought this was completely, hey, well, there's balloons. What was that? Did you guys see the balloons? I think what it is I've got my other camera going here. So I've got a 2-camera setup here, right? I've got this one over here, and it's my iPhone. And for some reason, I don't know, do a thumbs up. Does it have that? Does it have that thing where it does the reactions? And by the way, there could be problematic today because I've got my daughter came home. She lives in San Diego. She drove up. We needed to do something with her car, so her car's getting fixed. But she brought her dog home. This is a big-ass dog, and it doesn't get along necessarily well with the 3 that I have stuck in the room with me right now, and a cat. So this could get, I decided to work from home today. So this could get interesting as far as that goes. Okay, let's go first to, and Sean, I don't know if you're still in here. I think you made a comment, and then he said, see ya, because this isn't happening yet. likely that it happens. But Good Logic was doing a stream the other night. Gets his 100,000th edition episode. Wow, I don't know. I think that's what it is, or 100,000 subscribers. I don't know what it was. Anyway, but he had a bunch of different attorneys coming in there, and then he had or different streamers, and then he had Sean was already in there, and then Nick comes in, and so then this is it, and it's a bit awkward, but I thought, hey, why not? Let's play this because awkward is what we're about.
Our good friend Nick Rekieta. How are you?
Hey guys.
What's up, guys? I hope I'm coming through okay.
And by the way, I just want you to see, because you could talk about the people that grift off of this stuff a little bit. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but watch Bronca. He's so excited.
What's up, guys? I hope I'm coming through okay. I have someone else's headphones in. Everything's a disaster over here.
Sounds like a potato. It sounds, but like
oh, great, perfect. I just hopefully won't sound like I have a gun in my mouth. Anyway, what's up, man? How you doing?
No matter how the stream goes, that's how people are going to say you sound. So
might as well.
I was in the middle of I was going through like a diet phase, and
some people should try it.
Perfect. You don't get to steal the Jew defense. You don't.
You get to borrow it. No, Joe's going to just start mailing out pages to everybody. That's going to be his 5K gift for local.
You have to admit that operation took a lot of balls. Shout out to Sean the Beard for apologizing, making things right with Nick. Okay.
Don't ever expect it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't ever expect it.
Oh,
wish you and your family well, Nick.
Thank you.
You all are too good together. Damn it, I ain't got money for another super chat. I gotta send love to Nick. Praying for you. Also awkward with potentially criminal on there. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know.
Some people make things awkward.
Good enough for World War II. Get him.
Speaking of dripping subs show, I gotta take off out of here, man.
All right, and then he talks to Sean a little bit more there, and it's. By the way, so I appreciate some of you guys sneed after coke. Nick always with the self-harm jokes. Yeah, if only. Joe the enabler. I kind of, and you know the enabling there too is also the people throwing super chats. I mean, I wish his family well also, but and this is we're gonna get into with Barnes, and I just want to play a clip of Barnes. This is a few weeks ago. We played this whole segment. This is off of Elissa clips. Great work, by the way. So we're going to go here real quick and just play a little bit of this. This is what he was talking about before the Franks hearing, and I thought it would be just a little bit interesting to play that, and then kind of talk about where we are from there.
You knew there were sirens going off and red flags everywhere. And it wasn't Hail Marys or special defense of Nick Rekieta or anything else. It was just any case I would look at and say, this case smells like a crap case. So the government has already conceded. Prosecution has already conceded that, yeah, we kind of Mirandized one of the witnesses. And, yeah, they kind of asked for an attorney. And, yeah, we kind of had another cop coerce testimony out of him. So yeah, we can't.
It's amazing. Yeah, no, let's back up. So Nick brings this motion. Remember, Nick brought a motion earlier, blew through a few things in there, but this was one of the first omnibus things about suppressing testimony or the statements that April Malta had given to the police, I guess, after she'd been Mirandized. We're not sure exactly what those statements were. I believe they are, because if you remember, there was some talk out there that Nick had said that, oh, she's not a nanny, okay, or no, we don't have a nanny, and the wife had said she is, and then so they made some comments. So it could be about that, right? Could be a difference of what was said when about who Mirandized when, okay, or what the statements. I don't know. But the DA, remember, the DA came out and said, well, yeah. Unless she testifies, then we could use it. But until then, we're not going to. So it wasn't like this big win burger. It wasn't like this big win that Nick got, because the state was like, well, yeah, no, that's hearsay. And we're not, unless she testifies, then we can bring this in. So it's really not a big win. It's just obvious. That's kind of what they were saying. So, okay, with that in mind, perhaps that's the case. But just remember that.
Can't put that on because he has confrontation clause rights that are independent. Some people think, oh, unless it's your rights that are violated, you don't have standing. There's a whole bunch of circumstances, either through the confrontation clause or the due process clause, where you can find ways to raise third-party standing effective claims. That I won't go into all the intricacy of it, but there's a bunch of people that didn't understand that basic part. It's like, Lord have mercy.
I don't know about, there was one person, Kurt read it, and I think it was the way that Nick had written it. He was talking about that, and he would push back, but then he came right back and said, "Nah, I think I'm wrong about that." And so, I mean, for the most part, it's just, it wasn't. Okay, I gotta let these two.
And the government conceded it, didn't even fight it. Said, "Yep,
Right.
No problem. Can't introduce those statements." The next set of issues was, as I also kind of predicted. So there's two ways to measure a warrant when you're reviewing it, and this basic thing, a lot of these law tubers can't get. These practicing lawyers can't get.
Yeah.
No wonder they have like no history of criminal case success that anybody knows about.
By the way, I'm just saying, I've only done a smattering of criminal stuff, but I don't have it up. What are you supposed to do? Put it up on a billboard that what you've done with your success? No, a lot of these people we've done, Sean does criminal stuff, I believe. Nate, but I don't know. There's other people out there. You don't have a scoreboard. We're not the MLB, right? Or anything else where you're like, get a notch another win. Maybe some people are like that. I mean, no, but anyway.
Which is, one is you assess the cop. Another is you assess the court. So, for example, when you're assessing whether or not there was probable cause for the warrant to issue, that is looking at what the judge did.
And remember, for those, this is just playing a clip of Barnes and Frei before the Franks hearing.
Okay? What the judge said and what the judge knew. And that's based on what the judge was told. And that can be and it's misinterpreted as a deferential standard. It's still a constitutional standard, still federal. You get language and lingo like that, but there's also language and lingo that goes the other way. But there's
Why is it a federal standard there, Barnes? Why? Why is it a federal standard? Because we're going to come back to, believe in the Constitution and believing, less government. Why is the Fourth Amendment search and seizure now being pushed out to, you're saying it's a federal issue. It's not a federal issue. It's a federal amendment that doesn't, in my opinion, never was intended to be applicable to the states. The 14th Amendment comes in. Incorporation of the Fourth Amendment, I want to say, was in the 60s. Remember, the Second Amendment wasn't even incorporated to 2010. So this isn't a theory that's bread and butter. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Barnes here. It's not bred into our national history as far as that goes. So I just throwing that out there.
A different way to challenge the warrant, and it's what I said from the get-go, which is you can challenge whether the cop told the truth. It's it's loosely after Franks versus Delaware called a Franks hearing. What it is, you tell the judge, "Hey, judge, there was information the cop had access to that he failed to tell the judge, and that's how he got the warrant." Mm-hmm. And what's amazing is we don't even require, I think we should, but we don't require, we don't impose a negligence standard. So we don't say the cop with due diligence would have done boom, 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 boom.
Which is important. Remember, the judge brought this up. Once again, this is just Barnes and Viva talking about Rekieta before the Franks hearing. Then we're going to play their clip. I just wanted to throw this in there to see where their standard was at the time. So he's pointing out, this is very important, right, to point out what the actual law is. Now, he says it should be negligence, but it's not, okay? It's actually a federal standard.
I think we should require that to meaningfully enforce the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, but we don't. We just say, don't lie. Don't make stuff up.
Right.
Don't hide stuff. But everything about what this cop did screamed to me from the very beginning, before I'd even read the search warrant affidavit, just looking at the detention warrant, screamed that this cop is a liar. This cop is a fraud. And you don't have to love Nick Rekieta to care about Nick Rekieta to see that. You just have to care about the Constitution of the United States of America and have a little bit of practical lawyering experience. And so turned out the cop lied about tons of stuff. So it turned out that Children's Protective Services had already told the cop what's being alleged does not constitute sufficient grounds to allege any kind of child abuse, least of all a crime. Do you think he included that when he mentioned it to the court? He just kind of forgot to put that in there. The second thing, he knew that the weird dude up in Minneapolis had said all kinds of crazy stuff about Rekieta. He was citing him like he's a concerned citizen. And he just forgot to mention to the judge, actually, he's kind of a nut job who's been saying crazy stuff for 6 months about Rekieta. And then the third part was he claimed, remember the videotape where he could magically tell what was or wasn't white powder as opposed to what is a flash reflection? And he knew from his special video insight that must be cocaine. Extraordinary, even though all the behavior he then describes isn't consistent with taking cocaine.
Okay, we're done with that. Okay, so I just wanted to play that kind of up front to show where they were. And I'll push back just a little bit on Barnes here. The coke was definitely coke. It wasn't some sort of flash reflection. We've gone over and over this. The letter from the social worker, we talk about precedent and negligence and different standards. That was a flippin' social worker. And by the way, Nick says the activity that I was doing, she said was legal. Did you tell her you were doing coke? That was what the guy. Now, also, was his behavior standard and in line with doing coke? Sometimes. Remember, he said his behavior is in line with poly drugs, right? Doing multiple different drugs where he's down, he's up. Those are important things, but we all know that. We all watch that and know that. So that's ridiculous, Barnes. Let's go to the most recent stuff we got. And by the way, we'll since we're doing it here, Sneed After Coke gave about enabling on Joe's side. Perhaps maybe I'll talk about it. When Barnes goes high pitch, it's his lie tell. What up, y'all? From Hey, What's Now? Shannon's in mom mode, but she's listening. We appreciate that. One more here. Everyone thinks Nick won't go to jail because he's a one-time offender, first-time offenders. I don't know why I'm in trouble reading this, but that's when they repent and plead guilty, not when they call the cops, CPS, and judges all corrupt. I am not sure about sentencing standards. About you're completely. You have a great point there, right? Which is you always see this, right? The judge is before they get to come up there and kind of make their last little plea. Are they apologizing to the court or whatnot? What's the remorse? And then the sentencing oftentimes will have to do with remorse. If he takes a plea and then he's up there and he's like, and I see this. And by the way, I found some great family law stuff I'm going to go over Friday, so tune in for there. Hopefully Nick won't have any more busted out stuff. What was I talking about? Nick. I see this all the time in family law, which is the court's made a ruling, and sometimes it's not the ruling you like. Maybe it's completely wrong. You got railroaded on a minor issue, and this is really with custody. Okay, so now you go back in. You're trying to modify your custody, your visitation arrangement. Maybe years later, maybe 2 years later after the other one, and something else had been adjudicated against you. I'm always telling these people, I don't care if it's wrong. Now you're going to, because you don't want to go in there before the judge, see this all the time, and now complain about this past ruling because the judge is like, well, you had your chance. We ruled that it was your fault, or you had whatever it was. So now what are you doing about it going forward? And that's the important part, right? You've taken this plea deal. Now, maybe he does one of these, I'm trying to remember the name of it, where you take a deal, you don't admit any guilt. It's kind of a weird thing. I don't know if every state will even allow it, but I think it has to be coordinated with the DA. But the most part is, yes, what are you doing about this? Are you actually saying you're sorry? Now, it's actually more, back to Sneed here, it's actually more important this issue with the CPS side, exactly what I'm talking about, because with that side, you do need to take ownership and you need to show the court. They've said, hey, you had coke in your system or whatever. So now deal with it. You want your kids back, and Alfred plea. Thank you. Alfred plea. Yeah. Once again, I don't do that kind of practice, but appreciate you guys joining. You got a smart chat. I'm a little worried. guys might catch on to me. Oh no. Okay, so here we go. This is now Elissa Clips did this segment, and I'm like, I don't know. She cut it off at one point, and I was like, I don't know if she cut it off, if they included anything more. So what I decided, and by the way, you should go check that out. But what I decided to do was just take this off of their, being Viva and Barnes, their own stream, so we don't have any problems of this Nick stuff, which is doctored streams. And here we go.
We'll give YouTube a freebie this week. Any updates on the Rekieta case?
1.25.
Robert, so I believe there were some updates on the Rekieta case last week. I was trying to follow along, but from what I understand, Rekieta, Nick, or his lawyer, had presented a bunch of motions to dismiss all the charges and strike the evidence as inadmissible. And I don't think it comes as a surprise. So I don't think it's as devastating as anybody thought it would be. But the motions to dismiss were not granted; they were dismissed, and the motion to exclude the evidence for the time being was not granted. Is that about the size?
But look, and I did not. If I was great at this job, what I would have done was I would have gone back and got all the exact quotes of how this was a no-brainer, right? It was going to be we saw the tweet I put up there that Elissa had, and I shared it as well, which was Nick saying, you guys, none of you know what's going on. You're all a bunch of dumb hicks. I'm paraphrasing here. And, sorry. When this Frank's hearing happens, you'll see. Remember, Barnes also made the comment last time that the state was nervous. They were very nervous. You know how you know they're nervous? Because they wanted to do a reply brief. That's how you know that they're nervous. And it's probably back. Maybe we need to find that spot because, that's the other one. Because he made that comment. No, we're not going to spend time. He made the comment that the only reason they did a reply brief was because they were nervous and they were scared because this guy did so much line. Okay, that's the pretext that we have going into this, and now it's like,
Well, there was a request for a Frank's hearing. So a Frank's hearing, if you get a Frank's hearing, it usually.
Sorry, good point there as well. He didn't do a motion to dismiss everything because we talked, and Sean said this last time. Like I said, I don't do criminal, but I'm not a complete idiot. You guys aren't either. One of the guys I enjoy watching this is the meme copium guy. He's not an attorney, but he breaks this stuff down. It's some of it's. As a matter of fact, he was right on the we just talked about it. The Imolti chick being able to say it. He was like, it sounds right. He was right. Now you don't have to necessarily be an attorney. And this is why you can be a non-practicing attorney and break some of this stuff down. What we do best, being the attorneys. And I think this is what I do exceptionally well because it's your viability as far as your job. Think about it. And I too often get clients in here where they're like, well, I was with this attorney. He told me this. And I'm like, my best attribute is I take and this has to do with being in court a lot, right? It's your best attribute for me is to assess what the situation is and to give them a likely outcome of what's going to happen. What I also do when we're going to go to court, I'm telling the client that hasn't been there, I said, here's how it's going to work. I'll just walk you through a quick, easy thing that I do. And as an example, go to Sacramento court, and we're going to do a hearing, and maybe it's going to be on a return from family court services. So you've gone to family court services. I'm like, here's what's going to happen. We're going to walk in. We're going to try to talk to the other side, see if we can get an agreement. I'm going to do that on the phone beforehand anyway. If we don't, okay. So we'll walk in there. You're going to sit here. I sit up front. You sit there. I'll check us in. We're going to wait until our case is called. And then they're probably going to ask us if we've read the report. Have you read the report? Oh, you have. Yes, we've already gone over it. So obviously that's the case. Then we're going to make our arguments, and we have like 10, 15 minutes. The judge is going to make the ruling, and if we don't like this outcome, we can request a trial, just so you know. And then whatever little details are in there, we walk in. It all just ticks exactly as I've said it, and then we walk out. What does that client have faith in me as far as just even the comfort of how this court proceeded, telling them where to sit? Turn your phone off. Don't, by the way, when you're sitting up there, I don't want any kind of eye movement. I don't want your eye rolling. I want you to treat this like it's a business situation and your boss is up there, because that judge is more important than your boss. And I don't want to see you interrupting the other person. Matter of fact, you don't have to speak unless I allow you to happen. The judge may want you to talk. I'll say, sorry, this person's not talking. Depending on my client, I will assess whether them talking is a good idea or a bad idea. it's gone wrong a few times, right? You misassess, and next thing you know, the guy's trying, girl, whatever, they're trying to, say all kinds of stuff. So that is what we do. And when I'm done, the confidence from your client in your abilities, and your abilities are based off of your experience and having done this, they are much higher, and they're going to trust you more and more going forward because, one, you put them at ease, two, you take care of their issues, and sometimes I'm telling them too, depending on what this judge is saying, I may not even make any arguments. Sometimes I'm just like, that's it, because I don't want to put myself in a position that starts to make situation where you try to read what the judge is going to be saying. Anyway, those are all little things that we do as far as attorneys go. You don't necessarily have to be an attorney to understand how the law is and to be able to go through all this. Those, though, are the specifics about why I think listening to an attorney sometimes is very helpful as far as the YouTube goes.
It means the case is going to be dismissed right out of the gate. But they're tough to get with a lot of judges. That doesn't mean the judge's decision is correct. There are some people out there that constantly confuse power with principle.
I'll just say, because we're going to listen to him, that what is Barnes pushing back? What did the judge get wrong? What are all those lies? Now, did he actually read the ruling? I don't believe he's read jack shit, honestly, on any of this. What has he read? What does he get? What went wrong? What went wrong about that ruling? And by the way, what have I said over and over and over? And I'll just crack this out in case you guys don't really understand. I'm pretty much on the edge of anarchist, libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, which I'm high capitalist, but I live in the real world, right? That's what I would. I'm also religious. There's things I would like about religion, about heaven, whatever, that, and what perfection that you would like. That's just not where we're at in this world. So we have to live appropriately. I'm not going to compare at all philosophies about politics and religion, but it's just kind of a good idea if you understand it's not going to happen, okay? And I don't necessarily believe what I want is utopia, because that's, I think, the government trying to force people to behave in certain ways. Maybe it is. Maybe we're just not there. The point I'm getting at is minimal government, high voluntary interactions, and that's what I want. But that's not what I'm preaching here as far as the Nick Rekieta case, okay? Yeah, that once again, personal responsibility, vilifying people in public, that's more my aspect. But that is what I've said over and over and over. And I don't believe, Sean, Kurt, who else was out there? Nate, Legal Mindset, Andrew. I don't believe any of these guys are putting their own personal philosophies ahead of what the court is they think the court's going to dictate, okay? And so that, to me, is a very, very important aspect of what we've all been doing. Who hasn't been doing that? Who out there hasn't been doing that? These two yahoos, right? These two yahoos over here. And what I say that is because they are putting ahead, and he's going to go into it more here, but their personal, what they want out of this world and what they want out of a constitution, which I don't actually believe that it's true, is how the government should be ruling on this. Yeah, completely. I get that. But with that in mind, is that going to be how they're going to rule based on the facts and the law in place? Because that's what everybody's interested in. If you want me to pontificate and to talk about what should be, and we could go over like theoretical situations on this case, it's still a tough call, Mr. Barnes. And the reason it's still a tough call is because not that I have a problem with Nick doing coke, not that I have a problem with him having kids. Not that let me rewind that. Not that I have a problem with him doing coke. Edit this. Not that I have a problem with him doing coke. Not that I have a problem with him having guns. Not that I have a problem with his dirty, messy house. Not that I even have a problem with his polyamorous relationship and his poly drugs. My problem was and always is the children that you've exposed to this from like 6 to 16 and your behavior associated with that. What do you do as a community when these things happen, right? That's the tough libertarian aspect. And you do kids' rights. Are these just chattel, or are they their own being? If their own being, then you have age of consent and you have other things, but they are under your purview and they are under your responsibility. There's respondeat superior, which is a vicarious liability, actually, in this case, which is your responsibility and your liability for your children, doing things under your care. And then That's the problem we have. So what do we do as a community? Well, right now we have fucking CPS and we have the government that comes in. I've said it from day one when I was doing this show about Nick. I've said that CPS can save a family and they can ruin a family. Okay. I don't know what's going on with this one as far as that goes. Okay. I'm sorry. I just I went off a little bit. Let's catch up on the Nick will go to trial because he's right and won't bend the knee for clout. Possibly. Yeah. After Coke, here's hoping. Oh, here, that's part of your name. Sorry. Doctor of Madness says the live viewers will be amazing. Yeah, that's true. By the way, that's the one aspect. So you've got such a clash here of tips of egos, which is Nick's ego to show everyone he's right, but his reality ego of not wanting his streaming life to be bruised. And if you go forward with this body cam footage, Coke, maybe you get more of the results about your actual daughter, okay, what the situation is. So to save his streaming life, do you do that? I don't know. I can't wait. If Nick decides to take this to trial, does it affect any plea bargains for Kayla and April? Well, no. Those are separate cases. Matter of fact, we haven't heard much about either, except for April's had some discovery shit going on. And Kayla's, no, it's a separate case. The difference is though, and this is where to me, there's so much craziness in Nick, which is, he had an out. Hey, this was April's shit. She came over here. She brought all her stuff. You've heard her husband, ex-husband, at the time, he's complaining about, doing coke over here. Those motherfuckers brought all this in here and endangered my kids, but he's got his clause in with April. So no, those would be separate, but you may see try to do plea deals, and it looks like the three of them are just all co-conspirators. So I don't know about all that. Depends when they go to the trial. If Nick is found guilty, the girls can say it was all Nick's coke for defense. They can. By the way, these are often, you see these different types of cases. There was one case, my wife was really big into this one. It was down in Florida. Doctor and his wife, they're both doctors, I think. They have kids. Then they're getting divorced. It's murder for hire. Her family was doing this, and then they're putting them all away one after another. So you can use the testimony from the prior hearing. So, it's all checking. Okay, let's keep going to these motherfuckers.
So the fact that judge says something tells you nothing about the law. It tells you what people in power do, but it doesn't tell you anything about principle. So some of these same people that celebrate the exercise of power in this case, I think wrongly denying a Frank's hearing, they are the same people who would condemn.
Barnes. This is my problem with Barnes, and it makes me wonder a lot as to what kind of actual attorney he is. Co-conspirators, by the way, Max is perfect. Which makes me wonder what kind of an attorney. Is he really a good attorney, or is he just he's super smart. I think he is very smart. He retains knowledge. He knows a lot of these things very well. His problem, though, is what he just did there, which was a complete declarative statement. The Frank's hearing should have been, granted. Why? What about now apply all the facts to the case, right? What you said before, there was all kinds of lying. Were those facts applied to the judge, right? Did the CPS letter matter much, right? Was there misrepresentation there? Were there lies in the warrant that you claim? Remember, Nick said at one point that they were going to prove that he lied easily prove that. Okay, let's keep going here.
In such power when it's been utilized against Trump, for example. Do you think the New York was Judge Engoron right? It's what according to the logic of some of these people, if the judge says it, that must be the law.
That's not what we're saying at all. We're just applying the facts. It's easy for us to take the Engoron or whatever one and look at that and go, who was harmed, right? The bank isn't bringing this. It's the DA that's bringing this, and this judge is kind of full of shit. Yeah, we've all had those. I've had those. There was just a case, Nate the lawyer just did one where there's this guy running for office in southern Florida somewhere, and he did a fake online account. Jeez, where's my mouse there? Online account where he was pretending to be someone that was, because this guy is Indian, and he was doing racial stuff at him just constantly online. Well, he made that up himself, okay? So then he gets tagged, and the police are coming after him for false, basically accusations or whatnot. I don't know totally what it is. And then they find out that this judge was part of this, right? And then there was another one here in California where this judge is crazy as well. So judges can be crazy, but that's not what we've done here. I don't think you're going to see any of us out here on LawTube being really, like especially Joe, being in agreement with the Trump stuff. I mean, that's pure lawfare. I've talked about those in general, which I've said this, many of these things, which is what Trump's done, is it's driving over the speed limit. Everyone is doing it. Everyone is doing it. Hillary did stuff, Biden, all these ones are doing all the same. The cop just for some reason decided he doesn't like Trump, and so he's going to pull him over. That's really what it is. But a lot of the stuff Trump is actually doing is a little shady, okay? I'm just saying, in general, if you're going to walk the walk. But most of this stuff, just like the documents thing, right? This just goes. And then they tie him in with some other stuff. Anyway, let's keep going here.
Some of the most simplistic notions of the law I've ever heard or read. Now, sometimes it just reflects personal or political prejudice on the topic or subject matter involved, and that can cross all kinds of barriers. And there's people that are obsessed with hating.
Whoa. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the WTF there. I thought it was Texas. Did I not say Texas? I meant Southern Texas. Southern Texas. They're with the case with the guys. Okay. Oh, and then the judge that got shot in, I don't know if it's Tennessee or somewhere back there. We got to figure out what happened with that too.
Being on Rekieta. So it's amazing. You see these people that pretend to celebrate civil liberties and civil rights, celebrate the abuse of those civil rights and civil liberties when they don't like the target.
Well, let me play a little devil's advocate.
No, no one's celebrating the abuse of civil rights, right? Of this. But what are those abuses that have happened? And so here's Viva Frei's attempt to play devil's advocate, which was, yeah, but this is how you would play it, which is, okay, this is my devil's advocate. Okay, Robert, which I play all the time to him. Okay, Robert, but he had a lot of coke. The kids were there. It seemed like nothing was determined to be a lie. What's that? But let's see.
Because some people might say, well, when the judge comes down with a good decision, it's the right decision. When they come down with the wrong decision, they lack principle. In this particular,
because or I disagree with him in the interpretation of the principle.
Well, in this particular case,
you should always separate principle from power. One is, what do you think tactically is going to happen, as opposed to what do you think legally should happen, and those two should not be conflated in doing legal analysis.
Have you ever heard these two talk about the Rekieta case and say what is likely going to happen and what should happen? No. This has been from day one. This motherfucker over here, sorry about the language here. This motherfucker over here has never said that. He's called out lying, da-da-da-da-da. If that's now he's talking. And by the way, there's principle, and then there's just we're trying to explain how these facts play into it, Mr. Barnes. Okay, do I want Nick to be going? Once again, I say all this, and then all of a sudden I realize, oh, that's right, your kid had coke, and then I'm like, oh, maybe.
And there's a tendency in the legal academy to conflate them, because what it will do is reduce it. It makes objective truth subject to subjective power, and when you do that, you no longer have objective truth. You no longer have an objective principle. The law is supposed to be, the idea of it is that there's an objective truth that we're seeking to discover as advocates, as jurists, as jurors, etc. Not that it's subjective, that it's subject to subjective whim or interpretation. So so I always say, when the judge disagrees with me, I disagree with the judge. I just don't say, oh, I must have been wrong on the principle because somebody in power disagrees with me. That's and whether they agree or disagree, that's the other aspect to step back from. So when you're analyzing these things, look at what is the objective truth of the matter and always separate that, because they want the powers that be want us to divorce ourselves from the meaning, from the objective truth seeking at all, and say, you need to defer to subjective power. And whatever we say is the law. Whatever we say is the rules. We don't need no stinking badges. I find that idea dangerous to any sense of constitutional liberty or governance.
Okay, but that's a completely different thing. Okay, that's completely different scenario we're talking about. I will do that till the cows come home, which I don't have. I grew up with cows, but until the cows come home, which is, well, let's talk about theory and what should apply here. I just was listening to Stefan Kinsella. He's a brilliant legal scholar, libertarian. He's talking yesterday about in this so-called libertarian world that you might have, and this is all theory. This is what but he's saying. because the idea is maybe you don't have criminal law. Maybe everything is adjudicated under civil. And he's like, it's actually, he wants it the other way. Okay, we can have these conversations, right? We can talk about more freedom. We can talk about less freedom. You can talk about people we did last time with rights and employing power and how that structure works into it. We can do all of that, okay? But does that help the Nick situation going forward? And you're not going to couch this complaint and this concern about civil rights and then tell me that I should be concerned about, I'm concerned about Nick's civil rights, right? But I'm also concerned about the kids, right? And that's what got me in trouble with Joe Neerman to begin with. Good logic, because I'm still concerned about those kids, because I don't give a fuck about your Nick Rekieters anymore, because at some point, until they show contrition and they do whatever, and I am only saying this because he's a public person whining and bitching about stuff constantly online. So you have to do, and by the way, if you're in the chat and you want to tell me what you told the CPS, there's dogs, sorry about this. And you tell me what you told the CPS, or what she said the legal activity was that you were doing. Was it cocaine? Then we'll have an interesting discussion. Let's keep going.
Governance. It's part of the sort of left in general, but it's also part of the power in general. No objective truth. Everything's subjective. So all of a sudden, nothing is true and nothing is real. And you get into all those philosophical aspects that have been popular within parts of the academy for 60 years. And some of these people that are so deferential to power constantly do that. When a judge issues a ruling, sit down and say whether you agree with it or disagree with it and why. As opposed to, oh, the judge agreed with this, so that must mean the principle was right.
Once again, this is fascinating to me. This is so fascinating to me, which is he just said, you can sit down and say what you don't agree about with the ruling. Have you heard him in any? That's why I wanted to play their thing, so you get the whole concept of what he's talking about and not just a clip and then he talks about it later. What has he said was wrong about the ruling? What did he say the judge got wrong as far as the plain view doctrine? Did the watermark make a difference, right? The watermark. Any of those things, the CPS letter, was there any material misrepresentation in there, and intentional, not negligent, okay? Was any of that there? What was your reason, Robert Barnes, for the judge being wrong? You just said that's what you do. You sit down and then you determine what it is and you tell them what is wrong about the ruling. Have you heard anything right here about the ruling that's wrong so far? Anybody?
I was either right or wrong on the principle, regardless of what the judge said.
Are you telling me that the expression is not badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers?
No, badgers.
Okay, what movie was it from? Badgers. I think it's from UHF. Okay, that was a joke. But the question is this. I view these types of motions, especially like a motion to dismiss and a motion to exclude evidence, the vast majority of the time, they're not going to be granted by the judge.
Not at a trial court. Not in America, unfortunately. The now, if you're talking about the tactics, one, you always raise them because you raise every defense.
Of course.
Two, tactically, you want to make it as robust as possible to preserve issues for trial and to preserve issues for appeal. That's where most of...
Did Nick do that? Because... we just saw the judge said anything not raised now, you've waived. Okay, you lost your shot, and we heard Sean said in the chat at the time things he thought that was the Bruin, the new ruling on Bruin about the historical aspect. Could that be part of it, right? Okay, so he didn't raise anything else there, which Nick says you needed to. And Robert's saying you should have. That's when you do it. That's when we. Okay.
That's where a lot of the plea bargains that are done in these cases are done in two different ways.
Right.
Either the government fears losing power broader than just the individual case on appeal, and so they come to a more reasonable terms. If they had lost with the trial court, the case was dead. If the trial court even orders a Franks hearing, and you have a cop subject to cross-examination on his entire history of a range of, they dismiss right away typically, or they just don't.
Okay, let's back up just a tad bit. I haven't done a Franks hearing. I've done what's called a pitches motion in California, which I will gladly say I was part of. Okay, I was working on there. I had another guy, a new attorney, come in, and he was brilliant, and he wrote this pitches motion, which we got, which is the ability to get the cops' service records, any disciplinary records. It never gets granted. They never get granted. We got one granted. We not only got it granted, but then here's what the judge does. He in chambers, he's like, you don't get everything, and he determined what was significant for us to be able to have. Then we got that. Then they dropped all charges, and then we won a civil suit. Okay, so with that in mind, yes, I understand that, but you don't then just get to talk about everything this guy ever did. That's not what this standard is here. You're going to talk about this particular issue. So they're not right there, Robert.
The case. They have Frank's hearings are supposed to be commonplace, but they're very rarely granted. So everybody knows that. That's part of the system. You're not likely to win out of the gate with any of these kind of motions tactics.
Right, because it's got to be an intentional lie that they catch you in, right?
I disagree with that as a matter of principle.
Sure.
Because our courts are way too deferential to power, and they don't meaningfully enforce, in criminal defense cases especially, our civil rights. That's why I talked about the 8th Amendment and P. Diddy and Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein and Sam Bankman-Fried. These political cases where they know the person's disliked, and most criminally accused are going to be publicly disliked, they know they get away with.
Wait, so does he want Epstein and Bankman-Fried and those guys? I understand, right? Civil rights is for everybody, so you have to have that. But what did you just say?
With eviscerating our constitutional rights and liberties. And these people that celebrate that because they don't like the individual, whether that's Nick Rekieta or whether that's Sam Bankman-Fried, doesn't matter who it is, that's it. That's how you lose your constitutional rights and liberties. Another way you lose it is by confusing objective truth with subjective power, with principle with power. Don't make that confusion.
Okay, so I get that. I'm totally on board. Objective truth. Let's just go through some, because the court made some findings of facts. Would those be objective truths? Okay. Nick had coke, 26 grams. Guns were found under the bed in 3 different safes. We still haven't determined if those safes were locked up, so I guess they're just storage closets. The house was a mess. CPS letter came out before the Pomplin started his investigation. But the document, the full 4-hour, 4-minute, and 4-second video was uploaded, and the judge himself, was able to timestamp everything and see it's all the same, even with the watermark. No determining problems there. Aaron and Molte, they were not on good terms. That was made evident. So we've determined those are the particular facts. Brown substance, ketamine, coke all over the place. Objective facts, good. I'm not saying I'm a heel of the government, and I'm not saying any of that, but we can't put our heads in the sand and act like these 2 bozos have done this whole time. If you had been talking this way, Barnes, from the start and given some context, this is what I said immediately. I'm like, if Nick, maybe I would say this. I think Nick is, he's Trump in a way, which is probably sees people online because you can tell who he got an attorney through Robert Barnes locals. Right. So he's like Trump in that aspect, which is, hey, I see this guy online. He's great on Joe in the Morning or whatever other show. And so he's going to be in my cabinet. He's going to be advising me. He's going to be my attorney. She's got big breasts. There we go. And is that really the guy you want? So he sees Barnes talking about it. No one knows more than Barnes. He's the king of be all end all. So Barnes says, fuck yeah, file all these things. You've got so much. There's lied to you. And then you take that advice. And next thing you know, you're doing more coke streams. I don't know.
You may be right or wrong in your interpretation of the principle, but never defer to power to who is right as to what the truth is as to a principle, because that's how power gets away with a lot of bad stuff.
I heard the news. Some people might want to frame it as a massive defeat for Rekieta. I presume that these motions were never going to get granted in the first place. So it's, they're going to take.
They remember before the state was in so much trouble, they asked to file a response. That's how much trouble they are. And they're like, no, he is in trouble now, which is okay. Let's just keep going.
I mean, you take a long shot up front and then you just keep taking the shot.
Okay.
But it clearly established a robust basis because the government had to take time to issue a different reply. They didn't want to do a straight oral argument out of the gate. They conceded on a range of issues and topics. So if you're in
what did they concede on? This 20342. Let's see if I can back this up without too much trouble. Let's try this here. Okay.
A robust basis because the government had to take time to issue a different reply.
They had to take time to issue a different reply. They replied once. Nick filed the motion and then filed a supplemental response to that. And they filed. Of course, you're going to do that. What the F is your point?
Didn't want to do a straight oral argument out of the gate. They conceded on a range of issues and topics.
Conceded on a huge range of issues and topics. What did they concede on? One, they said, well, yeah, we're not going to bring her testimony in unless she, testifies. Yeah, of course. Of course. They didn't concede on that. It's like you bring in a motion. Hey, you're not gonna be able to bring up this report unless you have a custodian of records come in and testify. Oh yeah, no fucking kidding. Okay, that's not much.
So if you're in the government,
and they waived all these other pretrial motions that they could have done because they were now in the omnibusing stage is when they
you've got a long fight. The smart thing for them to do, given the low significance, frankly, of this case. I know some people climb the walls because they get really upset over people allegedly using certain unapproved drugs. I find more objectionable people that kill people with legally authorized drugs, like Big Pharma and COVID. And yet another case where a young man who died from the willful misconduct, in this case of government officials, lying about the safety and efficacy of the COVID vaccine, were let off the hook this week by a DC judge.
Hold on just 1 second before I forget what I was about to say. Too late. I forgot what I was about to say. Okay, tell us about this case. This is
okay. So now they go on. So there you go. So he transitioned quite nicely. Barnes did from, this is a low impact case. Yes, it is. It's low impact. But you know what is the high impact? Here's the high impact on this case. These guys here, okay? These guys here have been outed. If you're paying attention at all, these two guys have been outed from this case. That's the high impact, okay? Robert Barnes now is doing all kinds of crazy shit online over and over and over, right? And the best part of this case is seeing people like them get exposed. And is it going to make any difference? No. Yeah, there's like what? Let me. This is how it is. There's 92 views on this show today, and these guys, I'm just on 600 and some thousand on YouTube. They probably have the same on Rumble. Their believers are true believers. In other words, they'll take that. But these two, over here. Sorry, there you go. These two have been exposed, in my opinion, and that's the significance of this case, right? I mean, it's really not about anything else. And then, yes, I understand there's drugs. Do you think, though, if the cops, this is maybe a hypothetical that we should never even play, but I'm going to do it anyways, and then we're going to be out of here. So I appreciate you all joining me today. If the cops, CPS, family, Aaron Himolte, he's kind of a whatever, but if all this conflation of people hadn't done this, how bad do you think this situation would have got? Do you think there was anything about Nick, what he felt, because they still got April at the house, right? You're not making all that much change. Okay, it sounds like he's being dragged into any kind of healthy lifestyle. Okay, how would this have ended? Would it have ended in maybe innocence dying? Do you think maybe that girl did have coke? Okay, I don't know. I don't know if that was legit or a bad test, but I'm just saying, at what point would this have ended in a horrible situation? Because I think those kids' lives, some of them maybe have been saved. And Nick may agree with that or not. There was a rumor. I mean, there's testimony in the CPS thing where the one worker's out in the hall and she hears the mom talking to the oldest kid, and she says, well, these are the consequences of her actions. So maybe Kayla's getting it. I don't know, because she's got more than one tattoo and she didn't understand the consequences of those actions. So all looking pretty haggard, if you really ask me. Okay, let's go back to here. Sounding like confession through projection from Barnes re personal bias. No. He doesn't understand that it's through projection. He doesn't understand that it's confession, because he can change his, whatever feelings on a dime. I make mistakes, and I hope I come to you with those up front and saying, okay, there's a problem. This is what brought me to my political thinking as it is. I'm still, following my way through life there, but it's really about being consistent, right? And if I want to be able to argue something, I feel like I have to have a consistent philosophy that goes along with that. And I feel like that's where it is. Compassion, everything that maybe you feel like your political life doesn't really have that, or, those can be things you can incorporate, but which one allows you to do that? And so that's for me. That's one thing. Is just try not to be a hypocrite on stuff. Viva Frei makes me want to cut my hair. You just do it anyway. Get a billboard. I should. I'm not going to. Many who sweep for Nick say the child endangerment charges are no longer in play. That's not true, right? Those charges will play into the plea if he's offered one, or will come into play for trial. Great question. two separate types of deal. The child endangerment, I believe, was charge. That is a charge on him. That doesn't go away. It's not like, well, the kids are no longer in danger. That's not what the statute is about. Did you put them in danger at the time? I don't know if this is too far afield for this, but think of it like, I mean, it's a negligence standard, right? Or doing something with reckless disregard for what the outcome is. This is typical if you go through your degrees of in criminal law of murder, right? There's first degree murder, wanton disregard for whatever. I'm trying to remember. There's manslaughter, the second first degree, whatever. And one of those is involuntary manslaughter, right? Which is it's a negligence standard that really the analysis goes into, right? Think of it like this. So there's a difference between you're out there in the field, you're shooting with your buddies, and a train's going by. Okay, it happens to be a cargo train, and it looks like there's nothing there. You're just like, I'm just gonna, it's my 22. I'm just gonna shoot at that and see if I can hit this train. Obviously, I see grain and everything, and you shoot at it, and there's a bum that's sleeping on top of the grain that you hit and kill him. Okay, now you shouldn't have been doing that, but what are the odds that people are going to be in there? There's a good chance. That's involuntary. It's negligence standard, right down there. Then there is the same scenario. There's a train going by. This time it's an Amtrak. What do you think the likelihood of killing someone is when you shoot there? It goes up much higher, and it's no longer just negligent. It's much more than that, right? So you kind of have this here with the Nick side. The child endangerment doesn't go away, right? You said child endangerment charges are no longer in play. No, that's what happened at that moment is what the child endangerment goes. Now, his own custody and CPS issues, that's a different ballpark, a different game, so to speak. And those do go away, right? He's going to get his kids now, but it doesn't mean you don't still get charged on that. It's like, okay, well, look, I was drunk driving, but I'm not drunk now. But I killed someone there, but I'm not drunk now. No, that charge doesn't go away. So that's still there. So I hope that answers that question. Rittenhouse team was wise to fire Barnes. Absolutely. I'm just glad this judge wasn't internet illiterate. Yeah, exactly. That is a concern. And by the way, I'm watching a trial now. Joe Neerman's doing it, Good Logic. And it's down there in Georgia about the Dominion voting. And it's really technical with this hacker guy, he's a government guy that does this. And, the judge, you have to understand a lot of these things. And, I've followed some other cases, Library, which was part of, spun off with Odyssey. They had a whole thing with the SEC. Those judges have to really understand a lot of crypto and securities stuff. So that was, Barge was never hired on the Rittenhouse trial. He lied and said he was working on that case. So which is worse, that they fired him or whatever? Viva, what the tool? Yeah, Shannon gave me some targets there. Thanks. Nick would have died on stream. I think you're talking about what would have happened. Quite likely, yeah. Add the tats to the bangs category. Yes, thank you. Women should not get bangs. Cut their bangs. I'm sorry. That's just, it looks very, unless you're Asian. Okay, then maybe there. My guess is that 1 out of 100 judges would have done the same in this case. Absolutely right. You would not have had, I know some judges, even ones I work with, this one here, he's very libertarian. Would this been any different? No. And that's part of the problem here. What would Barnes have needed for this to happen? You didn't tell us, right? It was obvious. The judge, painstakingly gave a lot of, drafting. They did a lot of pleadings for this response and gave a lot of time to it. Part of that is, and I'm getting hungry. I'm gonna have to shut up here in a second. Part of that is, there's case law. Plain view. If this judge is overturning this, then you do see this often here in California or whatever, where the Ninth Circuit's famous for getting overturned at the Supreme Court a lot. Yeah, well, then that's what's going to happen. And so if this judge had allowed a Franks and maybe had overturned some things just on philosophical grounds, which is what Barnes wanted, that judge's reputation is going to go to shit. Okay, because they'd be like, well, wait a second, I'm a black guy. I had my gun and I was doing a little bit of blow And I got railroaded on this. Why does Nick get it, right? Why is Barnes out here advocating for Nick on this one? Paula says they keep trying to make it look like Aaron is the only one who told the police that Nick was using. Thank you. Mandatory reporters told the police that he was getting high. Yes, it was all part of that affidavit where it was a church member. Remember, there were church members. There was the teacher. There was the school. Someone in this Sunday school or the school, whatever it was, had mentioned that the kids were so dirty. The girl herself said, I haven't had clean clothes in days, and she was in the house, okay, when the police picked her up. If the 9-year-old's hair follicle test was proven to be false positive, Nick would be shouting that from the rooftop. Nick isn't being truthful about the CPS case and the collect charges. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Although, I'd tell him in my mind, just shut the fuck up about all this stuff. Stop talking about it. And he's done a little bit better than that on the CPS. Nick needs to take his case all the way to the Supreme Court. I agree completely. He should be doing that to the Supreme Court. So, folks, there we have it. I think I am done for today. I just wanted to do that. This was fascinating. So it was just too much to handle from these two yahoos out here. And once again, exposing these two about there's too much. There's too much from these two jokers. I just can't handle it anymore. And there you go. That's what it looks like to be that kind of guy. Okay, everybody. Once again, Tyler here. Let's see. What do we go out on here? What's a good song to go out? I get problems when I play the kind of songs I want to play, which is I have a Depeche Mode here. How about The Cure? Let's go with that, and then we'll be safe. Nick to the SCOTUS. Who would be his attorney, though? That's what I would want to know. That's the I'm going to work on a new outro because I use the same intro as the outro, and maybe we'll have to work on that, or we'll play this one in case you guys missed it at the beginning. Here it is at the end. But anyway, Friday, we'll do 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central Friday. So tune in for that. I'm going to break down a family law case that I think is going to be great. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show. And by the way, there's all kinds of ways you can follow podcast catchers, so you can listen to this, Yahoo, me talk about this and other aspects. I'm going to restart this out here so I don't get struck on this one. So I have a Substack where I post everything, all the links, but at some point we're going to curate it and get it a little better. Maybe we'll even have a little better community here. Love you guys. Take care. Someone says poop, and Wibe says clips of Nick used in a sentencing hearing could get him life without parole. You guys are too much. Absolutely. Take care. See ya.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. Why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.